Welcome to this virtual open house for the Clark and Groveland Joint Infrastructure Plan project. I'm Sarah Bluvis, a capital project manager for the City of Mercer Island, and I'm joined today by Jordan Zlatoff from Berger Partnership, the city's design consultant for this planning process. The joint infrastructure plan for these waterfront parks will identify and prioritize specific park renovations and repairs to implement over the next 10 to 15 years. The existing park features are nearly 50 years old and showing signs of their age, with multiple structures in need of repair or replacement. In particular, waterfront and in-water structures such as bulkheads, docks, and piers must be repaired or replaced soon. As part of the planning process, we must also bring the existing facilities up to current standards in terms of building codes and accessibility guidelines, as well as environmental permitting requirements, which have changed in many ways since the parks were originally developed. At this stage of the process, we're excited to present preliminary design concepts for each park to the community. In our two open house videos, Berger will provide an overview of the park's existing conditions, then walk through three concepts for each park. It's important to understand that there's limited funding available for improvements at both parks, so all ideas presented today may not be included in the final infrastructure plan, which is where you come in. After watching the presentations, provide feedback on the design concepts by taking our survey on Let's Talk. You can respond for one or both parks, and the concepts Jordan will share are posted on Let's Talk, so you can refer back to them as you take the survey. Survey results will be used to develop the preferred concept for each park, which will be shared with the community in early 2026. Now I'll hand it off to Jordan to discuss each park.
Hello, my name is Jordan Zlatoff with Berger Partnership Landscape Architects. We've been working with the city staff on developing conceptual design for Clark Beach Park and Groveland Beach Park, and I'm excited to share our recent progress and design concepts for these great spaces. Located on the west side of Mercer Island, Groveland Beach Park serves as a local community park as well as one of few public areas on the island with direct water access. Because of its location on the lake, we also need to consider how the area connects to the broader recreational uses like non-motorized boating from nearby launch sites and its place along the Lakes to Locks water trail. On the right, you'll see a survey of the park's existing conditions. This highlights key features of the site, including the steep terrain, existing structures, parking areas, drainage systems, walking paths, vegetation, and even underwater features. Here you can see a few images of the existing conditions at Groveland Beach Park. The existing swimming pier and wave attenuators, the swimming area and pier with the concrete bulkhead in the foreground, another view of the concrete bulkhead, which takes up much of the waterfront, an existing restroom facility, the existing picnic table near the water, and timberwood steps down to the beach area. Groveland Beach Park is located within the Cedar River watershed, which supports important migratory runs for Chinook, coho, and sockeye salmon every year. Because of this, changes along the shoreline at the park may impact the regional salmon habitat. As part of our planning, we studied the full shoreline of the park, looking at different types of bulkheads and slopes of the land. The key area of focus is the near shore salmon habitat, the area along the shore where the water is less than 15 feet deep. This zone, shown in light green on the graphic, is essential for salmon and other related fish species. However, at the south end of the shoreline, an extended wooden bulkhead currently cuts off this zone, making it difficult for fish to move along the shoreline. One of our project goals is to remove this extended bulkhead to restore better conditions for the fish. Additionally, much of the shoreline is lined with a concrete bulkhead. This creates poor habitat conditions that wouldn't meet today's environmental standards. As part of the park improvements, we seek to soften and restore these edges to restore a healthier shoreline environment. On these next slides, you can see a few cross sections depicting unique conditions existing along the shoreline, including at the top, the partially enclosed swim area, pier and flat area, and the sand and volleyball court to the right. At the bottom, the beach and grassy slope with a concrete bulkhead along the water edge and a small wood retaining wall. And on this page It's shown the north end of the site where a previous capital project improved fish habitat by softening the water's edge with a gradual sand and gravel beach slope and added vegetation. Here you can see an aerial photo of the park with the existing conditions survey overlaid. This gives us a sense of the current layout and the features of the park. Next, we'll walk through 3 design concepts that were developed as options for park improvements. For each concept, you'll first see an overall plan of the entire park, followed by a closer look at the waterfront area in more detail. The concepts are generally presented in order from the highest level of change and cost to the lowest. But keep in mind, while this order applies to the overall design approach, some individual features within each option may not follow the same pattern. It's important to note that funding for this project is limited, so we likely won't be able to include all the ideas you'll see in the final design. By sharing your thoughts through the survey, you'll help the city understand which elements matter the most to you and guide how the available budget is used. As we go through each concept, we'll highlight the major design features, but we encourage you to spend time with the graphics afterwards to explore the details more closely. These materials are available on the Let's Talk website and can be reviewed again while you take the survey after this presentation. Before we dive into the differences between the 3 design concepts, it's helpful to point out a few of the elements that are consistent across all of them. First, all the concepts propose the removal of the existing concrete bulkhead. This change helps soften the shoreline, meaning we'd restore a more natural edge to vastly improve the fish habitat and overall ecological health of the shoreline. Second, each design proposes replacing the existing elevated pier structure with a new floating pier that will allow swimmers to better access the water as well as calm wave activity in the swim area. Third, all 3 designs propose replacing the existing restrooms with an improved facility featuring gender-neutral stalls and changing rooms. Here's concept design 1. This design proposes replacing the existing playground in the upland area of the park with a new gathering space featuring picnic tables, benches, and a pollinator garden. While the ADA accessible route from the parking lot to the waterfront is not feasible at the park, a new tree canopy walk with an elevated boardwalk creates an accessible route to the mid-level gathering area. To offset the removal of the playground, new forest play features may be incorporated along the elevated boardwalk. The existing secondary trail along the south edge of the property would be refurbished with new stairs and resurfacing to provide an alternative, less steep path from the parking lot to the water. Zooming into the shoreline zone of the park, concept design 1 transitions from the paved path of the water to from the paved path to the water with a series of wide grassy terraces. While the terraces take up more space, leaving less room for open sand and gravel beach areas, they would provide ample space for seating, picnicking, and sunbathing. At the south end of the waterfront, the design takes advantage of the beautiful backdrop and the valuable shade trees by adding new seating and picnic pockets within the existing trees. In this concept, the new floating pier will be roughly the same size and in the same location as the existing pier. Here's concept design 2. This design proposes relocating the park playground to the waterfront and the sand volleyball court to the mid-level clearing where the playground is currently located. A new elevated deck area with benches and picnic tables would take advantage of existing sightlines to provide unique lake viewing opportunities from the upland portion of the park. This design also proposes to improve the secondary trail on the south edge of the park boundary for an alternative, less steep walking route to the water. Looking now at the shoreline zone of the park, concept design 2 proposes condensed terrace seating to transition from the paved path to the beach. Compact seat steps free up space for a wider beach to accommodate sunbathing. On the south end of the shoreline, concept 2 repurposes the existing tree grove with a series of small play areas featuring nature play elements such as small boulders, rope hammocks, log climbers, and other elements fitting for the forested character of the site. The existing pier would be reconstructed as a floating pier in a smaller configuration, in a similar configuration to the existing pier. However, Concept 2 expands the pier with a platform and adds a detached floating swim platform to provide different opportunities for swimming and hanging out. Here's Concept Design 3. This design retains the playground in its current location. Play equipment and surfacing would be replaced, and the renovated play area would provide multiple terraces to take advantage of the sloped terrain, providing new play opportunities and creating seating space for parents and caregivers. In this design, the secondary, non-accessible trail with stairs on the south edge would connect only from the play area to the waterfront. Zooming into the shoreline zone of the park, a centrally located, accessible path connects the existing walkway to a new extended seawall and the beach. Space is retained for a wide, expansive beach area for picnicking, sunbathing, and playing. At the south end of the waterfront, this design adds a few open grassy lawn terraces within the existing tree canopy. The terraces feature picnic tables and are bordered with wide platforms to provide flexible seating spaces for gathering and lake viewing. The new floating pier would be constructed in roughly the same configuration as the existing fixed pier, and in this concept also proposes expanding the floating pier with a platform for hanging out and swimming. Here you can see cross-sections reflecting the three concepts proposed for the main beach area of the waterfront. Notable differences can be seen in the seating and hangout opportunities, the extent of the structured seating versus the open beach area, and the amenity space above the existing paved path. In these next few pages are shown images of other park facilities with elements similar to those in the proposed concept designs. These are intended to help visualize what these features might look like, although future design efforts will be conducted to determine the specific amenities that will be constructed at Groveland Beach. The first board focuses on the waterfront and beach character. To meet existing environmental permitting requirements and establish a stable beach slope, any beach installed at the site will need to be a mix of sand and small habitat gravel, similar to the image on the left. This next board depicts grassy seating terraces that are similar to what is envisioned at the waterfront for design concept 1. Next, these images provide examples of floating swim piers as well as other water play features that could be proposed during the future design efforts. This board shows some potential ideas for nature-oriented play features that may be employed within the small play pockets shown in design option 2. These are some additional play ideas representing what some of the forest-style play elements might resemble along the elevated deck walkway as shown in design option 1. This is the end of the presentation material for Clark Beach Park. I'll now turn it back over to Sarah Bluvas from the city to provide closing remarks.
So to recap, during the presentations, Jordan provided an overview of the existing conditions at Clark and Groveland Beach Parks, and then shared 3 design concepts for each park to consider for the joint infrastructure plan. Now that you've reviewed the concepts, we invite you to provide feedback on the designs through our survey on Let's Talk. Go to www.mercerisland.gov/CGIP or scan the QR code on your screen. You can provide feedback for one or both parks, and the survey is open through November 3rd. All design concepts are also posted on Let's Talk, so you can refer back to them as you go through the survey questions. Survey results will be used to develop a preferred concept for each park, which will be shared with the community in early 2026. Thanks so much for watching and for sharing your feedback with us.